The gist one will tell you the gist of what I have heard, studied and understood. It is nothing new but that which all have experienced. It is human nature that one always wants something new. In reality, that which is new is everlasting. Pay attention to what I say. It is a simple, easy and beneficial thing. Accept it firmly and you shall be relieved from worldly sorrows. You may not have this experience now, but it is certain that you will have experience of it in due course. Knowledge matures with the passage of time. Accept now the gist of what I say. When farmers sow seeds, the crop will get ready only with the passage of time. But if you ask him, he will say farming has been done. Similarly, if you accept firmly what I say, you will attain salvation. If you have a burning desire, you can achieve God realization now, otherwise, this experience will take some time. In essence, the world never remains stationary, every moment it is perishing. All living beings are moving towards decay and death. The seen is merging with the unseen. Everything is taming into nothing. The body, wealth, property, family, respect, prestige, rank and position, all cease to exist. This is everyone's experience. So understand it carefully, and realize this eternal truth. Remembrance is of two types: 1. Active, such as chanting of the Lord's name. 2. Mental. Active remembrance does not remain constant but mental remembrance does. Once you have known something, you cannot forget it, while in active remembrance it is likely to be forgotten when not active. In mental remembrance you need not remember, because you accept something only after knowing it. Suppose, by caste you are a Brahmana, then you don't remember the fact again and again, but if someone asks, you immediately reply that you are a Brahmana. It is an error only, if in spite of being a Brahmana you say that you are a Vaisya or Kshatriya. Similarly, if you accept the perishable world as imperishable, it is an error. If you once accept the world as perishable you may not remember it, but mental remembrance remains. Sisters and mothers accept the fact that they are women, they need not remember it. Similarly, a man after becoming a saint has not to remember this fact or count the beads of the rosary. A married person has not to keep on thinking whether he is married or not. Likewise, you should also give serious thought to the fact that the world cannot remain in the same condition, it is perishing every moment. The second point which is to be kept in mind is that actually the world does not exist on its own, it schemes to exist because God exists. For example, if a man is sitting and several men pass that way, he can say on being asked that some men have passed by. But if he had also gone along with them, who could have informed about the men who had passed that way? Similarly, God is everlasting and the world is perishing every moment. If you accept this fact, you will get established automatically in the eternal Lord. The moment you accept the world as imperishable you forget God. But if you accept the world as constantly dying away, even without remembering God, you are automatically established in Him. The world is dying away, this idea is excellent and invaluable, it is scientific truth, approved by the scriptures and exalted souls. God is ever living, omnipresent and immutable. The Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga and Kali Yuga all are subject to change, but God never changes. The world is to pass away, but God is to remain. If you accept these two principles, you will be successful and you will attain knowledge, and God realization. If you keep on reflecting that the world is passing away you will reach a stage when you will experience the existence of God, the concept of the world will disappear altogether. The saints have declared, if you accept the world as non-existent, you will experience Him who always exists and is thought to be unattainable. This is the essence of the whole thing. Accept it from the bottom of your heart. Everyone has experienced that the situations, circumstances, incidents, things and companions of the past are no more with you, they have passed away. Similarly, the present situations, incidents and companions etc., will also pass away because this is a continuous process. It is the tradition of the world that all the things and persons etc., have either passed away or are in the process of passing away, no one can remain permanently. Right from the beginning it is everyone's experience that the world does not stand still even for a moment. We do not give importance to this experience, this is our mistake. Hence, we have to face the cycle of birth and death again and again. Therefore, accept the fact today itself that the world is passing away every moment. This is the gist of the matter. Emancipation is easily attainable. I will tell you an excellent thing. If you pay attention to it, you will be immensely benefited. Key is that supreme love, knowledge, emancipation, God realization is automatically attainable. This statement is invaluable. You should accept it. If you accept it, it will prove very useful to you. God has declared in the Gita, know that matter and spirit both are without beginning. 13:19. O Arjuna! Know myself to be the Kshatriya, spirit or Jivatma, Also in all kshetras, field or matter 13 halves. It means that matter, prakriti, and spirit, purusa, are different. Therefore, accept the fact that your spirit and soul are different from matter. Emancipation which you wish to achieve is self-attainable. T is an error on your part that you have accepted your relationship with matter, because you want to derive pleasure from it. This relationship leads you to pain and bondage. If you do not accept this relationship, you are emancipated. You are everlasting and ever-living while matter is ever-changing and perishing. This matter is naturally different from you. But by accepting your relationship of I-ness and my-ness with it, you have committed an error. This body including the senses is not I and the world is not mine. You have only to accept the fact that you are different from the body and the world. As soon as you accept this, you will be emancipated. The purpose of creating relationship with the world is to have a desire for worldly pleasure. This desire is the root cause of all sorrows, sins, immorality and injustice etc. So long as you have a desire for material accumulations and worldly pleasures, it is certain that you cannot be free from sorrows, even though you listen to spiritual discourses, study the sacred books and become an emperor of the universe. The tendency for material accumulation and worldly pleasures cannot be rooted out by making effort, but by not accepting the world as yours. A woman accepts a man as her husband. Has she to make any effort in accepting him as her husband? We are free in either accepting or not accepting our relationship with anyone. We have our real relationship with God, but we have accepted our relationship with matter in error. So we have not to accept this relationship with matter because it is unnatural and artificial, while with God it is natural and real. In childhood, you accepted yourself as a child, then a boy and now a young man or an old man. Similarly, sometimes you accept that you are ill, sometimes healthy. Think over whether you made any effort in this acceptance. The main obstacle is the desire for several pleasures which leads to nothing but misery. By having this desire, you cannot escape its sorrows even if Brahma, the creator of the world, had to help you. Have you become happy by accumulation of money, enjoyment of worldly pleasures and getting respect and praise? Are you satisfied after getting them? Have you attained bliss by receiving them? If not, why are you running after them? Are you still in delusion? By chasing after them you will get nothing but sorrow. This is not a trifle but something very significant. Real joy or bliss can be attained not from without, but from within, which is everlasting. But so long as you desire to enjoy worldly pleasures and continue enjoying them, you cannot attain divine happiness. The way to root out desire for worldly pleasures is to live for others by bringing them comfort and removing their distress. By so doing, you will enjoy the highest bliss, the deepest peace, and you will easily and automatically achieve God realization. Real greatness. Only God is truth, all else is untruth. What does not exist is termed unreal, that which is unreal is not seen, but the world is seen. Then how is the world unreal? The answer is that the unreal world appears to be real because of God who is real. For example, we can see our face in the mirror, but is the face there? Similarly, the world is seen, but it has no existence of its own. Only God exists and is unchanging, while matter, the world, is ever changing. The world and its material body are always changing while God and his spiritual soul never change. Error arises as the unchanging soul depends on the changing world and wishes to derive happiness from it. But how can the ever-changing give happiness to the unchanging? Therefore, do not accept the world as your own, do not depend on it, nor have a desire to gain anything from it. Make use of the worldly things, but do not attach importance to them, nor accept yourself as great by having possession over them. Therefore, God has declared in the Hira, "Seek refuge in me alone." A man thinks himself big merely because he possesses money. If you think over this seriously, it becomes self-evident that if a man is great because of money, it implies that he himself is small, because it is only money which has made him great. But the reality is that you are everlasting while wealth, respect, praise, health, rank and authority etc., are transitory. Therefore, if you are proud of your greatness because of these transitory worldly things, it only means that you are degrading yourself, you who are permanent. Similarly, it is a mistake to consider yourself small on account of poverty, worry and disease etc. These transitory things cannot make you great or small. Attaching importance to perishable things leads to pain and sorrow and binds you to the cycle of birth and death etc. Therefore, carefully reflect on how the possession or dispossession of these worldly things can affect you. Always remember that you are the master of wealth, wealth is not your master. By attaching importance to wealth and by accepting yourself great by possessing money, you prove yourself a slave to wealth, and this leads you to pain and suffering. Therefore, remain a master of wealth, not a slave to it. How can impermanent and destructible things which are constantly passing away like the continuous flow of water of a river, make you happy or sad? If your riches are likely to stay with you for 40 years and a year has already passed, will you continue, be rich for 40 more years? Certainly not. The period during which you will remain rich is decreasing continuously, and at the end of 40 years it will be nil, but you remain the same when you had no wealth, and when you acquired wealth, you will also remain the same when there is no more wealth. The man who is not affected by the constant passing away of material goods attains emancipation. In the 15th couplet of the 2nd chapter of the Gita, Lord Krishna declares, "The wise man to whom pain and pleasure are alike becomes eligible for immortality." Therefore, a wise man does not rejoice in material goods and sensual pleasures. The man who considers worldly things as transitory and destructible does not become a slave to them. But one who feels the pangs of pleasure and pain in gaining and losing them, degrades himself. Therefore, real greatness lies in living above the influence of these transitory and destructible things. The knower of Brahma, having firm understanding, free from doubt, who neither rejoices on getting what is pleasant, nor grieves on getting what is unpleasant, lives eternally in identity with him. Gita 5:20. Pain of separation and attachment. In the world there are two things: togetherness and separation. Of these, separation is stronger. Of being together we are not sure, but of separation we are certain. Togetherness leads to separation. This is everyone's experience. The man who accepts this separation right now is wise. He will achieve knowledge and emancipation automatically. How simple it is. You'll be disunited from your body, senses, mind, intellect, life and mindness one day. This union is constantly turning into disunion every moment. Actually there is no union, there is only separation. Therefore, have experience of that separation at this very time. The soul has its real relationship with God, and this is called yoga. Actually, the soul cannot be disunited from God, but is only disinclined towards Him. For example, all of us have come here for good company, satsanga, for a period of 2 months. Now 20 days have already passed. Do 2 months still remain? No. Thus all kinds of union of things, circumstances and conditions etc., are turning into separation. There is no doubt about it, therefore, attach importance to separation and accept it as true and real. By doing so you will get established in God, because truth gets established in truth. This is called emancipation. You will not have to cry over spilt milk if you accept the truth and inevitability of separation. This is certain and there is no escape from it. In the Vinaya-Patrika Goswami Tulasidasaji declares, "The worldly things are likely to leave the man. So he should abandon them just now, otherwise he will have to repent." 198. Acceptance of separation is called yoga. In the Gita, Lord Krishna declares the state which is free from the contact of pain is called yoga. 623. In attachment there is an equanimity. By giving up attachment, an equanimity perishes and yoga is attained. In the Hira, equanimity is called yoga. After attaining this state there remains no pain, no sorrow, no burning sensation or commotion. So long as attachment remains, serve others without any selfish motive or desire. Bereavement of mother, father, brothers, sisters, wife, children etc., is certain, so have selfless dealings with them and serve them to the best of your ability. But do not have a desire that they should continue to live forever. Everyone and everything is to perish or to be destroyed in this world. They cannot stay with you forever. The union is temporary and uncertain, while separation is permanent and certain. So why do you insult and degrade yourself by desiring to live with them forever? Worldly attachment, jealousy, envy, pleasure and pain etc., are also transitory and perishable, while the soul is imperishable. To detach yourself from the perishable world means emancipation, and to get established in the imperishable God means devotion. There is a continuous separation in the perishable world. By firmly accepting this fact you will automatically achieve both emancipation and devotion. Secret of emancipation: it is a common experience that while sleeping soundly we forget everything such as money, family, house and property etc. In that state we do not feel any pain. On the other hand we feel rather happy. It proves that our attachment with the world does not give us any happiness. You imagine that you will be happy by getting worldly things such as wealth, position, respect, praise, pleasure and comfort. But reflect carefully whether you will really get happiness by having attachment with them or by detaching yourself from them. The answer is clear, that you get real happiness by having no attachment with them. During sound sleep all the worldly things disappear from our sight and we feel happy. It means that our happiness does not depend on worldly things. In wakefulness we lose energy, while in sound sleep we recover our lost energy. Thus, we cannot live a happy life without sleep. This proves that it is very necessary to have no attachment with worldly things in order to get happiness. Thus, if we break up our relationship with worldly things while we are awake, We may attain emancipation because that is the state of unconsciousness. Emancipation means detachment from all worldly things. The bliss which we attain in emancipation can never be attained in bondage. This bliss is the result of detachment from the world. When in sound sleep we pet joy and peace merely by forgetting worldly things. Think how much more joy and peace we shall get by breaking up our attachment with them deliberately. The body and the world are identical, they cannot be separated from each other. They need each other. But we, our souls or the self, are different from the body and can live without it. We existed before this body and will also exist when this body is no more. Even if we are not aware of this fact, we know that in sound sleep we live and live happily, though we even forget about our body. After sleep, when we are awake, we say that we slept soundly and happily. This means that we were in existence at that time. If you detach yourself from the world, you will be happy. If you cease to be a slave to worldly things such as your body you will experience bliss which is called emancipation. You may possess your body, family and wealth etc., but do not be a slave to them. One who is a slave to inert matter becomes inferior to it. But we are sentient and remain the same in all the three states, wakefulness, sleep and sound sleep. We are different from these conditions which change. We are the knower and onlooker of these states in the same way as we know that this is a hut and we are different from it. Therefore, this experience of being different from things, circumstances and conditions etc., is emancipation, higher consciousness. If by careful reflection you are able to understand these beautiful truths, you will get established in God immediately. The fact is that God has relationship with things, persons and actions in the same way as a king maintains his relationship with everything in his kingdom. The king's relationship with us is conventional, but God's relationship with us is real. Even if you forget him for ages, yet this relationship is constant and uniform with all. You may be in the state of wakefulness, dream, sound sleep, you may be worthy or unworthy, learned or illiterate, rich or poor, his relationship is always the same. I will tell you a way to understand this point. You will agree that you are the same today as you were in childhood, and you will remain the same in old age though your body has transformed and is constantly changing. But is there any difference in your existence? You always exist and your existence activates your body, senses, mind and intellect etc., but does not depend on them. It proves that you always remain established in God. Acceptance of your relationship with God, not with matter and action etc., is higher consciousness. Power, that is God, exists in the mind, intellect, senses and action and is their base and illuminator. You have to remain established in him, who always remains the same. All the conditions of consciousness, dream, sound sleep, constancy, inconstancy, ability, inability, childhood, youth, old age, poverty, riches, knowledge and ignorance are illuminated by him. You are really established in him already. You have to turn your attention to this point. Delusion is nothing but your attachment with the body, senses, mind and intellect etc. When this delusion is destroyed, memory, knowledge, is regained. Samadhi does not refer to new knowledge but just the recollection of what already exists. One is the same in all circumstances. It is not something to be practiced. As soon as you divert your attention to this point, you are emancipated from bondage of worldly life. God remains the same whether you direct your attention to him or not. But without diverting your attention to him you accept that you are established in action, things and situations etc. While taking meals you say I eat, while drinking water, you say I drink water and while going, you say I go. Thus, you accept yourself as a doer by identifying yourself with the body, otherwise you are automatically established in him who always remains the same. It has been said that a man neither loses anything nor gains anything, he is full and complete in himself. But only foolishly, he feels that he is a loser or a gainer. Thus, by getting established in him you attain the state of constant trance and higher consciousness. Bliss through renunciation. As a householder has relationship with the members of his family, in the same way God has relationship with all the creatures of the world equally, whether they are good or bad, virtuous or wicked. God has declared in the good, I am equally present in all beings, 929. He has relationship not only with all creatures, but with all circumstances, states and incidents etc., equally. Now listen carefully to what I say. If a man possesses extraordinary ability, it does not mean that God has greater relationship with him. God has equal relationship with everyone without any distinction. Therefore, it is a mistake to believe that God can be attained by possessing certain special qualities and abilities. God declares in the good, neither by the study of the Vedas, nor by penance, nor by charity, nor by ritual can I be seen, 1153. I cannot be seen even through austere penances, 1148. Then how can he be seen? He can be seen and attained by renunciation, 12/12. You have to renounce not only the worldly things such as money and ability but also the pride which you develop by having a possession over them. You have to renounce your sins as well as virtues. This statement that you have to renounce your virtues seems somewhat odd and thoughtless. But by having virtues you have pride, which is a demoniacal trait. So it must be renounced. Real renunciation is the renunciation of pride, not of things. Without renouncing your pride, even if you become a hermit or an ascetic, you cannot realize God. Therefore, do not have alternative relationship either with the world or with asceticism. You should be indifferent to them and have no inclination for them. By doing so your sins will perish and you will attain God. In reality, we have no inclination for them. How? When you get tired after performing worldly activities, you have a desire to have disinclination for the world and thus desire to sleep, which gives you relief, comfort and peace, and you get refreshed. You achieve all this by renunciation. Moreover, you derive worldly pleasure, not only by having but also by giving up. For example, when you are hungry, you have a desire to take meals. This means that you have attachment to food. After having your meals you are satisfied and you do not desire to eat any more. Thus, this disinclination for food gives you joy. But you believe that you get joy by having food. The fact is that renunciation leads to bliss and God realization. By having even the most valuable worldly things you cannot attain Him. All persons without any distinction of caste, creed and color can attain Him equally. What is the criterion for it? DT is that you should have only a keen desire to attain Him without the least worldly desire. If you have a desire to attain Him as well as for the worldly things, it means that you have duality of opposites and you cannot attain Him. The Lord declares in the Gist, only he who has transcended the pairs of opposites is easily set free from bandage. 5/3, he declares further, through the delusion of the pairs of opposites born of desire and hatred, all beings are subject to utter ignorance. 7/27. He goes on to state those who are free from delusion of the pairs of opposites, worship me with a firm resolve. 7/28. With worldly outlook your virtues may be far superior to vices, but those virtues cannot lead you to God realizatio yanu. Our attachment to all perishable things is the main obstacle to God realization. As soon as you break up your attachment with them, you attain Him. If you are hungry, you get pleasure by taking meals. But do you continue to get the same pleasure with successive morsels? Do you get any pleasure after your hunger has been satisfied? No, so the worldly things can give you pleasure only if you are sad without them. But if you are not sad and sorrowful without them, they cannot give you pleasure. So this world gives pleasure to the man who is sorrowful and it leads him to bondage. It is an error on your part to accept that things give you joy. It is the renunciation of things which leads you to joy. Now try to understand how you get joy by having disinclination. You cannot renounce a thing without having disinclination for it, and you have disinclination by enjoying it continuously. When you get tired and your energy is exhausted, you have disinclination for it and get pleasure. Actually, that pleasure is the outcome of your tiredness. This pleasure is the same pleasure which you feel by taking rest after running a long race. Therefore, pleasure is nothing but the name given to the exhaustion of power or disinclination for things. A pleasure-seeking person consumes things and degrades himself, while an ascetic does not do so. A man does not renounce the worldly things because he thinks that they give him pleasure. So he does not attach importance to disinclination for things and their renunciation. If he understands in the right way that bliss lies in detachment from them, he will not get entangled in them at all. All can realize God, all can achieve God realization. But he seems unattainable because you do not divert your whole attention to Him. When you are engaged in any activity, do you ever feel that you do not exist? You pay attention to your activities but not your existence. You perform an action and think that you are the doer. But you do not look at the Tuminator and guide of the doer. He is never non-existent. It is mentioned in the scriptures that you can attain Him by purifying your inner self. That is true. God by His grace has bestowed upon us this human body. Goswami Tulasida declares in the Ramakaridam Nasa, affectionate God sometimes by His grace bestows the human body without any reason. By bestowing this human body upon us He also gives us full right and freedom to achieve emancipation. Even a worldly government appoints a man to a post, only if he deserves it. Then how can God, who is omnipresent, bestow this human body upon us, if we do not deserve God realization? It is impossible. Therefore, if a man gets discouraged in attaining Him, it is his mistake. You can get established in Him immediately, if you have a keen desire to attain Him. You are not undeserving and unworthy, but your lack of keen desire is the only obstacle in attaining Him. He is the same everywhere at all times. We can know Him immediately, but we do not turn our eyes towards Him. As when you see any object with your eyes, you see light first because all the objects are visible within that light only. But you do not see that light first because your aim is not to see the light but to see the objects. God, who is the eternal celestial lamp, the source of all the lights, is the illuminator of the entire universe. Therefore, do not think that you are undeserving to attain Him, you merely lack keen desire. Moreover, do not think that you will be able to attain Him in future. You can obtain a thing in future by making efforts if it is not available at all times everywhere. But God pervades everywhere all the time, and His existence is self-evident in all things, situations and circumstances. Therefore, there is no question of thinking to attain Him in future. Pride leads to distress. Pride leads to distress and sin. How is it to be given up? On reflection, it appears to me that we should not compare ourselves with others. This pride can be rooted out. Pride and desire are the two evils which lead to all problems, jealousy, sorrows and hell. As long as we have pride, our nature will not improve but will worsen. Then what is to be done? Let us look only at ourselves and not at others. Whether others are doing well or not so well, let us not cast our view thither, as this will give rise to pride. Those who have virtues cause distress to others. It is because those who have virtues will feel proud and those who do not have them will feel jealous. If you do not have pride, you will save others from jealousy and distress. If you have pride, it will automatically cause distress to others. It is only spiritual bliss which gives happiness and comfort to oneself and to others. There is no worldly pleasure that does not cause distress to others, even though you may enjoy it by your knowledge, power and money which you have gained with justice and honesty. How is it so? Goods and objects in the world are limited. By enjoying a thing, others are deprived from enjoying it. Sometimes even the bliss enjoyed by a saint may cause distress to an evil man. But this case is quite different. Spiritual bliss is not the cause of an evil man's distress, but his own evil nature. Hence, persons enjoying spiritual bliss do not cause distress to others, but others cause distress to themselves thereby. The Shiva Liga is an object of worship, but if a person strikes and breaks his head against it, how is the spiritual person the cause of distress to others? This is a very serious matter, that one cannot enjoy worldly things without causing distress to others. By seeking pleasures, a person degrades himself. In whatever way a man seeks worldly pleasure, it is a pathway to hell. However, as already stated, worldly goods are limited while spiritual bliss is unlimited. If limited things are divided among people, each of them can get only a limited share, but all desire to get the maximum share. This is the cause of distress to people. On the other hand, spiritual bliss is limitless. Everyone can obtain full share in the same way as several sons of a mother can have full claim on her. By eliminating desires, pride will be eliminated, and if pride is rooted out, desire will be rooted out. If both are destroyed, your attachment with the world will break up and all your sorrows will be banished. Worldly pleasure are the cause of miseries. A pleasure seeker harms himself as well as the world. All the pleasures that are contact poor are verily sources of pain. Such a pleasure seeker becomes a cause of distress and violence to others. On the other hand, the person who sees the Lord dwelling equally in all things, neither harms himself nor others. One who sees God everywhere is established in bliss which involves no violence, because that bliss is one's own self. The spirit, which is a fragment of God, is imperishable, pure and unalloyed joy. One who sees a pleasure seeker enjoying worldly pleasures is pained because he cannot enjoy those pleasures himself. Therefore, the person who enjoys worldly pleasures causes violence to others. You may say that even an emancipated saint may be the cause of suffering to others if he has worldly comforts. But this is not true. He does not derive any pleasure from those worldly comforts. In his view, worldly goods and objects cannot provide divine happiness. He enjoys bliss by getting established in his own self. He finds bliss in God. Those who feel distressed are themselves a source of joy. But they are distressed because they have turned their sight away from their self. If they divert themselves away from worldly pleasures and get established in the self which is a source of joy, they may also be happy like exalted souls who remain calm, unaffected and undisturbed like the sea, both in pleasure and in suffering. As the waters, of different rivers, flow into the ocean which is full on all sides, yet the ocean remains undisturbed, in the same way, the liberated soul maintains decorum and remains undisturbed and calm. Gita 270. But a pleasure seeker is never undisturbed, he is always sad and distressed. If he does not possess worldly things, he is sad because he wants to possess them. But if he possesses them, he has pride which is the cause of sadness, as in ring-worn both itching and burning sensations are painful. Likewise worldly pleasures are painful when you indulge in them and also when you cannot possess them. But an exalted soul remains calm whether he has worldly things or not. His peace does not depend upon worldly things, he remains even-minded and calm in favorable and unfavorable circumstances. If a person has pride in possessing either virtues or worldly goods, He perpetrates violence on others because they are jealous of him on account of his pride. Actually, all persons are the same because all of them are infinitesimal parts of God. Therefore, it is a mistake on the part of people to feel happy and proud of the perishable things which they possess. A person who feels that he is superior to others also partakes of worldly pleasure. Similarly, a person who sits idle, gives pain to hard-working persons and does violence to them. Thus, a pleasure-seeking person causes suffering to himself and to others. All pleasures must lead to pain. Man being part of God is imperishable, and if he attaches importance to impermanent things and is a slave to them, he actually kills himself. Therefore, one who wants to achieve salvation should not feel happy by attachment to these impermanent worldly things, circumstances and pleasures, etc. A person believing in the discipline of disinterested action does his duty but does not engage in contact-born pleasures. If he does so, he cannot attain salvation. Renunciation gives way to joy. Other people feel joy on seeing and listening to him who has renounced the world. Such an ascetic, even in seclusion, does good to others, thinks of the welfare of all and wishes each one to be happy and free from diseases and sufferings. He comforts even those who harm him and returns good for evil. The person who thinks of the welfare of all without pride and selfishness gets identified with God's power, and the good done by him and by God is identical. Thus, the person who enjoys worldly pleasures harms himself as well as the world, while the person who has renounced worldly pleasures through love of God is the benefactor of the whole world. Our true relationship is not with the world. People have a misconception that they can attain God by making efforts like the efforts they make to obtain worldly things. They doubt whether they can attain salvation without making effort, but the truth is that God is omnipresent, pervades everywhere and all the time without any exception. Goswami Tulasidasaji and Ramakrishna Manasa mentions, the Lord exists everywhere in all directions. L/184/3. Our bodies as well as the entire universe is ever changing and passing away every moment. However, God and the Self, which is part of Him, always remains the same. Therefore, we have our relationship with Him alone and not with the body or the world. But we err by accepting the body and the world as ours and have attachment to them. We wish them to remain with us and to forget about God who is ours. We have, therefore, to accept our true relationship with Him, or, in other words, to snap our relationship with worldly things. If you reflect carefully, it will be realized that you have no relationship with the world. The body, senses, mind and intellect are ever-changing, while you remain the same. But if you do not realize it, you may accept it as a fact beyond any doubt. You may argue that this relationship cannot be broken up, but I assure you that it cannot be maintained. Were you able to maintain your childhood and youth? Those formative stages have changed and passed away, and everything is changing and passing away all the time without any effort on your part. You should stop thinking that you could not break up your relationship with them. This relationship is automatically breaking up without any effort being made. It is also not true that a breakaway from this relationship will take some time, because it has been accepted for a long time. A cave has been in darkness for millions of years, but if you take a lamp inside, will it continue to be dark any longer? No. Similarly, as soon as you accept the truth, this unreal relationship will break down altogether. Listen attentively to what I say and reflect over it carefully in solitude. Even after you remain unconvinced, please accept it as true. The Lord, the sacred books, saints and great men confirm that man has no real relationship with the world. Moreover, you also know that the world is ever-changing. But you do not attach importance to this knowledge. If you attach importance and accept this fact, your unreal relationship with the world cannot last. That you have no relationship with the world is absolutely true, but you are unable to comprehend this because you think about it with your mind and intellect. You do not go as far as the self, which is beyond both the mind and the intellect. What you were in childhood you still are. Childhood and successive stages have changed, but you have remained the same. The body and the world belong to one class while yourself and God belong to a different class. The former are perishable while the latter are imperishable. The two cannot be identified, therefore, you must accept the fact right now that yourself, which is unchanging, has no relationship with the ever-changing world. One more point needs to be stressed here. Do not try to visualize what effect your acceptance of non-relationship with the world will have on your mind and intellect. Do not expect any deterioration, change or improvement in them. Follow the example of farmers who plow the field, sow the seed and declare that the farming has been done, even though the crop takes its own time. Similarly, your crop is ready, as soon as you accept that you have no relationship with the physical world. If you are inclined to see only yourself, which is ever living and permanent without changing. By doing so, you will realize that salvation is easily and automatically attainable. God realization is axiomatic, We labor under the delusion that God can be attained by concerted efforts in the same way as farming or business or any other occupation. We devote our time, energy and intelligence in performing actions in the illusion that we attain Him by and by through effort and practice. But there is a vital point which needs attention. It is that God is already present and near us. All of us have a full claim over Him because we are His fragments. It is mentioned in the Hiramama Evangajivalok, 15/7, and in the Ramakaratama at Nasa Iswararisiwa Abanast, 7/116/1. Neither knowledge nor power nor wealth nor practice is required to attain Him. He is omnipresent and we are part of Him. Just as a child can sit in its mother's lap even if it is not learned, powerful and wealthy, similarly, all of us can sit in God's lap because He is nearer to us than our mother, and He has been our mother, father, brother, friend and relative from time immemorial. He is nearer to us than even our body because the body is ever-changing and separate from us who always remain the same without any change. The body and the world have identity, whereas we have identity with God. Therefore, it is unnecessary for us to devote time, energy and intelligence to attain Him. The reason why we have not attained Him yet is because we have turned our attention from Him to impermanent worldly things. Though He also pervades these perishable things, yet we cannot behold Him because we attach importance to them and thus look upon them only in the physical form. For instance, when we are in a railway compartment of a stationary train at a station while another train is moving on the other line, it seems that our train is moving while actually it is not. We realize this only when we look at the station. Similarly, if we look at ever-living God instead of looking at the kaleidoscopic world, we shall know in reality that the Lord ever remains the same while the world is ever changing and passing away. As worldly things are not with us, we have to go to them or bring them to us or change them or develop them before enjoying them. With God it is different because He is ever present everywhere. We handicap ourselves in God realization because we have turned our attention from Him to the impermanent and transient worldly things. Therefore, accept Him as omnipresent particularly in ourselves and do not consider the body, the mind, the senses, the intellect and the other worldly things as ours. By doing so, you will be able to behold Him in everything and everywhere. The Lord has declared in the Hira He sees me, the universal self, present in all beings, 6:30. All this is permeated by me, 4/4. God dwells in the heart of all, 13:17, 14:14. God exists in all creatures, men, women, birds and animals without any distinction of caste, creed and color. He is the disinterested friend of all, He is calling and pulling everyone to Him. How does one know this? It is our experience that God does not let us stay in any one situation or condition. You may have your attachment with any worldly thing but God does not let it remain so with anyone. Accordingly, He is ever changing our bodily development, our childhood, our youth and old age. By precept, He is conveying His message through sacred books and saints, and by example He is ever changing our situations and circumstances. Thus, He is making you to come towards Him by renouncing the world, because it is not ours, He is ours, and we are His. Question: does God exist in that which is seen, or that which is seen is God Himself? Which of the two is correct? Answer: both are correct. If you accept both nature and man, God and power, then God exists in the world. But if you accept only God, then God only exists. You can accept either of the two according to your belief. However, the belief that whatever is seen is God seems somewhat difficult because whatever is seen is changing every moment, but God is unchanging. This may appear doubtful. Therefore, it can be accepted that God exists in the world. There are not only two choices but there can be other choices also, either to accept God in the world, to consider the world as God, or regard the world as God's own. The result is the same. But it seems somewhat easy to accept that God exists in all, and it is even easier to consider that the whole world belongs to God and He is its master. By accepting it as such, let us serve all others. The only thing is that we should have God realization as our objective, then all will be well. Our true nature is existence, knowledge and bliss. That which keeps us separated from God is our desire to do something, to know something and to acquire something. If we were not to have any desire, we would be established in Him. By getting established in God, nothing remains to be done, known or acquired because that state is full and complete. Sometimes remembrances occur, but that may be because they have had a relationship with the mind and the intellect. Actually, memory has no existence of its own, so it is sure to disappear. What merits special attention is to consider what we really desire. In the multiplicity of our wants, we have forgotten what we really desire. In reality we never forget, we always remember, but on being asked we cannot give a proper answer. What we really wish is to live happily forever. Sometimes when we are in great sorrow, we say that we had better die, The reason for saying and wishing so is to destroy the body in order to be happy. The desire to get money, riches, property, praise, respect and health etc., is not our real wish. Our real wish is to live forever. This wish can be fulfilled only by being established in Him who is forever existent. But if we have any other desire, we are separated from Him because we have a desire for things which are really non-existent. If we do not have such desire, we can automatically be established in Him. Knowledge and happiness are interrelated. We desire knowledge and happiness. As we acquire knowledge about anything, we automatically experience bliss. We have a desire to realize truth, consciousness and bliss which we already possess. Whatever perishes is unreal and whatever is imperishable is real. He who does not possess knowledge is like an unconscious being. Thus, knowledge is consciousness. The state where there is no sammo is bliss. Thus truth, reality, consciousness, knowledge, and bliss are naturally available to all. Therefore, our self is true, conscious and blissful. But by chasing ultra-perishable things such as money, family, property etc., and attaching undue importance to them, we cannot experience God's presence within us. Question: after being established in the self, do the influences of the past resurge? Answer: the influence of the past resurges in the mind and the intellect. But we accept them in ourselves. It is an error on our part because they are transitory while we are everlasting. The transitory can approach the transitory, not the permanent. We, therefore, commit a mistake by accepting our relationship with them. In the self there is neither attraction nor repulsion. They are found in the mind and the intellect. These can be seen in the light of knowledge which is called is in the same way as we can see our hand in the light only. We are automatically established in that is, God. Question: will these defects and alterations keep on resurging in our mind as long as the body remains? Answer: no, not at all. These defects arise by accepting the unreal as real. But if we do not accept the unreal as real, these defects will not resurge in our mind. With the passage of time, the changes due to old age and weakness will occur, but the defects such as attraction and repulsion will not occur. We should carefully consider the real as real and the unreal as unreal. You need not be established in the self because you are already established in the onlooker, God who is called is. Otherwise how could we see the transitory world? We should not blame a person for his actions because only he knows in what circumstances he performed a particular action. Truth cannot be judged in the concept of others' circumstances. If we have to emulate others, we should do so in respect of good actions, not in bad ones. The existing ceases to exist just as the waters of the Ganges are flowing constantly, the world is moving and changing constantly. This entire existing universe constantly ceases to exist. What is seen is merging with the unseen, what was seen yesterday is not seen today. On reflection, we will understand that the body we had yesterday, we do not have today. Every moment it is changing. What is existing is constantly ceasing to exist. When a person dies, it is said that he has died today. In actual fact, he started dying the very day he was born. Only today he has completed the process of death. Whatever may be the present situation, riches and poverty, respect and disrespect, strength and weakness, health and sickness etc., they are all changing, ceasing to exist. How can we be pleased or displeased about it? We should understand this point and remain firm in our belief. If anybody comes and says that somebody has died, it should not be regarded as a new happening. Every existing thing is ceasing to exist. Since we do not pay attention to this aspect, we feel sorrow on learning about the death of a person near to us. This is the world of death. Here, only the dying live. What is here but death? Everything is passing away. As many days as you have lived, you have died. That you are living is false, that you are dying is absolutely correct. This is to be understood, not to be remembered. If you have lived half your life, you have died that half. We understand only that we have lived half our lives but not the other half we have died during that period. The latter statement does not appeal to us because we have a keen desire to live on, but this is true. Since you do not doubt that you have lived half your lives, this implies that you have died to that extent. The body is dying and ceasing to exist every moment, this is absolutely correct. I will tell you about my own experience. When I realized and reflected that the existing ceases to exist and the seen is merging with the unseen, I was overjoyed because this is a most important thing to remember. Just as a small boy once learns the alphabet and later recites them by heart, in the same way, we should also once learn this truth that the existing ceases to exist. Life is passing into death. By constantly remembering this fact, we shall be greatly benefited. To the extent we desire worldly comforts and long life, to that extent we do not respect this truth. Desire and respect are two things. Respect for this truth is less, desire is greater. That respect is less, This is our failing. Therefore, from today let us respect this truth. Painful experience of separation and attachment, the desire to live, the desire to act and the desire to obtain, these are three desires. To the extent that these three desires will be strong, to that extent we shall be entangled in worldly things, and we shall have difficulty in understanding actual truths. If our desires are rooted out, then our task will become easy. We have a keen desire to live on. But will this desire prolong our life? No. If we have lived for a quarter of our life, it means that we have died 25%. Similarly, if we have lived for half of our lives, it means that we have died for that half of our lives. We don't understand this because of our desire to live. Let us take the example of a tank full of water. Day by day it dries up, and one day it dries up completely. One would say that the tank has dried up today. In the same way, a person begins to die the day he is born. When he dies finally, the process of death is complete. Therefore, the whole universe is perishing or ceasing to exist every moment. In the Vanaparva of the Mahabharata, the genie asks King Yudhishthira, "What is the greatest wonder in the world?" King Yudhishthira replied, "The creatures of the world are going to the abode of death each day, yet those remaining alive continue to desire to live on forever. What greater wonder can there be than this? Living creatures begin to die the moment they are born. They commence their journey to the abode of death from that very day. On their last day of life, they complete the process of their death. The seen is merging with the unseen, one day all will be invisible. By accepting this truth that the existing is ceasing to exist, we can very soon attain emancipation and God realization. We have no relationship with the body or with this world. We are immortal." Tulasidasaji has declared in the Ramakirtamanasa, "The soul being a fragment of God is immortal from time immemorial. We in the body are born again and again to die again and again, but our self remains the same. The body is impermanent, the self is permanent. Our detachment from the transient body is a permanent, factual feature. Therefore, if we consider ourselves as detached from the physical body, we will realize we are already established in God. Within the family, brothers and sisters sometimes quarrel. The mother tells the son not to quarrel with the sister. Her stay in the home is only temporary as, after her marriage, she will be living away in her husband's house. Similarly, the existence of the body and worldly things is only transient and will totally cease to exist one day. Therefore, we should accept this truth, just as we lovingly bring up our daughter and provide her with food, clothes and other necessities, we should likewise serve the world to the best of our ability. The road to emancipation lies in rooting out our desires and detaching ourselves from the physical body and worldly things. By detachment of ourselves from the attachment to transient unreality, we shall achieve God realization immediately. The self never dies, the body never remains. He who does not remain, has no need to fear death. He who does not die, he too has no need to fear death. Let us reflect carefully that he who is dying every moment is a manifestation of death. Then how can death fear death? And he who will never die, how can he ever fear death? Therefore, there remains no fear of the death of the self, nor fear of the death of the body. With that body which is dying every moment, we wrongfully attach ourselves. This is the cause of fear of death. What is the solution? The remedy is, to accept the fact of separation. Every moment, separation is going on, union there is none. This is the name of emancipation, of salvation. Let us now firmly establish ourselves in the truth, that the body and the world are constantly ceasing to exist. Let us now worry at all. Then if worry comes it too will cease to exist. We have no relationship with that which is ceasing to exist. All is constantly passing away, we are the knowers, we are separate from them. Let us look at ourselves in this manner, let us do so 5 to 6 times for 15 minutes daily. Then, let us stop doing so. It will remain etched on our memory always. Need to improve one's nature. There are several factors that help in God realization. These include adoration and constant remembrance of the Lord, chanting His name, keeping company of spiritual and holy men, study of the scriptures etc. All these means help us to have attachment with the Lord. However, despite these virtuous actions, we remain unsuccessful in reaching our goal. The reason is we do not strive to improve our nature. Our spiritual actions, although they will not be in vain, will not make our life to shine and be pure unless we improve our nature. The two obstacles to improvement in our nature are our obsession with accumulation of wealth and gratification of our sensual pleasures. These two evils lead to selfishness and pride which distort our nature. This is harmful to us and to others. Improvement in our nature will leave a good impression on others irrespective of caste or creed. Therefore, for spiritual progress, and to become likable by others, there is need to improve our nature. The Lord has declared in the Gita, the divine nature is deemed for liberation and the demoniacal for bondage. 16/5. Selfishness and sensual pleasures are demoniacal traits. The demons are not those creatures with horns but those who commit sins out of selfishness and sensual pleasures. God in the 11th and the 12th couplets of the 9th chapter of the Hero declares that those who have demoniac traits do not worship him, but disregard him. People with devilish traits are those who harm others because of their evil nature. The people with demoniac traits are those who harm others out of their selfishness and pleasures, while the deluded ones are those who harm others without any reason. In present times most people possess demoniac traits. Anger is transitory, delusion is overcome by good company, but selfishness intended to get worldly pleasures and favorable circumstances always remains. Selfishness is a demoniac trait. Anger and delusion, therefore, are not so harmful as selfishness is. A person who strives for God realization adores the Lord, meditates and also studies sacred books. However, he does not progress in spiritual discipline because of his desire for accumulation of wealth and worldly goods, sensual pleasures and selfishness. Hence, we must improve our nature, give up our selfishness and be actively engaged in the welfare of others, otherwise we will not be free from worldly bondage. In the present day, there is a great need to give up our selfishness because it leads to all types of sins such as falsehood, fraud, dishonesty, quackery and betrayal etc. There is, therefore, a great need of selfless men who will provide succor in the same way as one provides food to the hungry or water to the thirsty. The country lacks selfless men. Anyone who truly gives up his selfishness and does good to others can become an outstanding man in no time. How are we to provide comfort to others? How to benefit others? How to ensure their right? By following a uniform pattern of behavior for oneself and others, selfishness is given up easily, there is improvement in one's nature. However, he who does good to others for self-advantage or self-appreciation does not really improve his nature. Hence, we should bring comfort to others and serve others in such a way that they and others do not even realize what we are doing for them. He who does good buys comforts, fame etc., in return. By doing good he acquires pride. All evils live in its shade. This pride turns to naught all the good that has been done. And nowadays this pride is being bowed to charity. By devotion, chanting of the Lord's name, service in the name of God, renunciation of pride, our nature will improve. This is not difficult. By firmly deciding to renounce pride, pride will be given up. Otherwise it is very difficult. Each day we will chant the name of the Lord 3 times and engage in other spiritual activity, but we will not relinquish our hold on pride. It is said that pride is a horrible devil and is painful in every way. Only he who is free from this scourge can get peace. Therefore, we should purify our nature and make it gentle. Whatever evils are seen should be turned out. The evils of selfishness and pride sit together. These are obstacles to our spiritual progress. Therefore, there is great need to improve our nature and to make it pure and gentle. What is truth? People lack the firm resolve to do good to others. The stronger our desire to live for others, to that extent disinterestedness will spread in the world. This is important for us in our desire to achieve God realization. After listening to spiritual discourses we develop interest in good deeds, and after enjoying worldly pleasures we develop dislike for them. Let us, therefore, have permanent interest in good company, and permanent disinterest in worldly pleasures. In this way we should resolve to achieve God realization. We must turn out from our heart any doubt whether we can attain Him. That which is not present could be achieved in future depending on our actions, but He who is omnipresent and at all times can be attained immediately. We should therefore give up our misconception that He is attainable only in the future. Our relationship with God is much greater than the public's relationship with their king. Our relationship with the Lord is constant. It is He who illuminates all the objects of the world. It is on account of Him that the transitory kaleidoscopic world appears real. He is never separated from us. Our union with Him is permanent, while our union with the world is impermanent. No sooner do we accept our detachment from it, than we get established in yoga. As stated in the Hira chapter 6, verse 23, the state which is free from the contact of pain is called yoga. We must, therefore, accept the fact of separation from this world, the abode of pain, because it is ceasing to exist and passing away. Each one has disinclination for worldly pleasures. Worldly people do not make this disinclination permanent but they make permanent the comforts they get from worldly pleasures. This is where we mistake. Aspirants should make permanent their disinterestedness. Question: we know that the world is transitory and every moment it is ceasing to exist. How are we to know the truth? How shall we know what the true facts are? Answer: in my opinion the desire for truth is less, that is why there is no application. Truth is so easy, so good and self-evident. That from which we have knowledge of untruth is truth. The knowledge of untruth is not derived from untruth. Now consider how near truth is. Even though people have knowledge that the world ceases to exist, yet they want to know if God is imperishable. The perishable cannot be seen without the imperishable. We can see the perishable and unreal world only when we get established in truth and reality. Untruth appears as untruth when we are established in truth. That we are established in truth is self-evident. Let us remain fixed in this conception. We should firmly accept the reality of God as the illuminator of the world. We can see all objects with the eye, but we cannot see the eye itself. Therefore, that which is seen is the eye. Even in the mirror we cannot see the eye, we can only see the spot where the eye is fixed. Hence, by hearing, reading, reflecting whatever knowledge we gain, that knowledge from which it is gained, is truth. That is the illumination and base, that is likened unto knowledge, consciousness and bliss. As stated in the Manasa, 1/116/4, it is because of the existence that the unreal world seems real. God is the illuminator and knower of all conditions, light and darkness, action and inaction, wakefulness and sleep. All conditions are known through him. Therefore, we should always remain established in him, we should never descend from his level. How to root out vices? The more clearly we start seeing our own vices, the more free we will be from them. When a devotee of God sees vices in himself, he is worried and pained and thinks of ways to free himself from them. Thus, distress or pain is good and useful for him. But it is not good if he thinks that there are vices in him. As collyrium applied to the eye cannot be seen with the eye, whereas other things can be seen, as long as we have vices in us, we cannot see them clearly. When we see vices in ourselves, it implies that they are not in us, but they are getting away from us. If we see them more clearly, it would mean that they are moving further away from us. We are unable to see things if they are very near to us or very far from us. Therefore, if we see vices in ourselves, we should be pleased with the thought that the vices are disappearing and being rooted out. The devotee mistakes when he accepts them in himself. The test of absence of vices in us is our ability to see them. The second test is that if we have vices in us, they should be able to be seen all the time. They are, therefore, transitory. We should not assume the existence of vices in us. If we do so, we invite them. Actually, we have no vices in us because we, as a fragment of God, are imperishable, sentient, pure and a natural bundle of joy. Manasa 7/116/1. We err by desiring worldly pleasures. If we divert our attention from them, we will be established in the self and shall experience the natural state of bliss. Goswami Tulasita Sajt also mentions in the Ramakarta Manasa, the mind cannot remain fixed without one's own natural bliss. 7/89/4. Therefore, by attaining that state of natural bliss, our mind and sense organs will be naturally controlled and fixed. Three factors strengthen vices. The first is acceptance of vices in us, the second is our observation of vices in others, and the third is in our causing pain to others. By seeing vices in others, vices get established in us. Likewise, by giving pain to others, they get established in us. Therefore, always be careful to avoid giving pain to others by our actions, behavior and words. Let us always be engaged in the welfare of all. God declares in the Hira, those who are engaged in promoting the welfare of all beings, attain Brahma, 5:25. Similarly, in the fourth couplet of the 12th chapter in the Hira, he declares, those who are engaged in the welfare of all beings come unto me. Therefore, a devotee of God, whether he wishes to attain God without attributes, nirguna, or with attributes, sana, should be seized with the welfare of all beings. He should avoid the path disapproved by saints and the scriptures such as the Hira, even though he may have to shed this body. Those who do not follow the teachings of saints and scriptures commit great sin. In the letter written by Sri Jayadadla Goyandaka, the founder of the Gita Press, Gorakhpurta Sri Hanumana Prasada Patara, the then editor of the Kalyana, it is beautifully mentioned that when impure gold is melted down, the dirt is burned soon, but the alien metal does not burn so easily. Likewise, in our inner sense the filth is removed easily, but the alien matter, such as causing distress to others, seeing defects in others and following the path disapproved by the sacred books and saints, cannot be removed easily. This can be removed only by continuous spiritual discipline and constant good companionship. In the Gita, the person who is engaged in the welfare of others has been called the supreme yogi. God has declared in the Gita, that yogi, O Arjuna, is regarded as the supreme, who judges pleasure or pain everywhere, by the same standard as he applies to himself. 6:30 seconds. Just as we do not wish anyone to do wrong to us, to steal our articles, to find fault with us or to behave badly with us, likewise, we should not behave in any undesirable manner with others by regarding their bodies as our own. A pleasure-seeking person always thinks of his own good and would like to ruin those who harm him. But a devotee of God would not like to behave with others in a manner in which he would not like others to behave with himself. He does not wish to cause distress to others with his body, mind or tongue or feelings, for, if he does, he cannot make quick progress in spiritual discipline. Even though man may strive for discipline through devotion and meditation, he will still not care for the distress of others. If he does not do so, despite such spiritual discipline, he cannot aspire for spiritual improvement. Even if we do not care for others, we should at least not cause distress to others. One may ask why one should remove the distress of others when one oneself does not cause distress to others. The answer is that this is necessary to bring about disinterestedness in worldly pleasures. Therefore, in the Radmakarita Manusa, Tulasada Saji, while describing the traits of saints, mentions, "A saint is he who sorrows in the sorrows of others, and remains happy in happiness of others." 7/37/1. Worldly pleasures are mainly of two kinds, wealth and women. Attachment to them is very bad and harmful. They are the main obstacles to God realization. In the Hira, these have been termed as prosperity and pleasure. Those who are attached to pleasure and prosperity cannot have determinate intellect concentrated on God. 244. Those who are attached to these two pleasures cannot have fixity of mind required to attain God. To remove this attachment we should have a feeling of concern for the welfare of others. These days this is lacking very much in our country. When there has been an abundance of something in the past and there is great scarcity now, we feel the pinch of the scarce item. Similarly, a large number of saintly people have lived in our country in the past, hence, today, we feel dire necessity of such men who have the welfare of other people at heart. Our interestedness in worldly pleasures will be removed if we firmly resolve not to cause distress to anyone. This will directly help in rooting out the evils in us. We always think in terms of our evils, but we do not pay attention to their causes. If we were to remove them by tackling their causes, the evils will be rooted out. Where lies man's real progress? A man thinks that he is progressing if he obtains things which he did not possess. He feels exalted by getting money and worldly pleasures which he lacked. But it is a fact, that the worldly things such as wealth etc., are perishable and cannot remain with you forever. Either we may die or wealth may slip away from our hands or both may perish. A man after aiming money and becoming a millionaire or a multimillionaire thinks that he has progressed well and has done something extraordinary. He is proud of his achievement. But if we think over this in the right perspective, we will realize that his thought is nothing but folly. All sensual pleasures lead to distress. The Hira states, the pleasures which are born of sense contacts are verily sources of pain. 522. Arjuna asks Lord Krishna why a man commits sin even if he acts involuntarily. Lord Krishna replies, it is desire. Gwa 337. It is desire for things we do not have. Our desire to get wealth, respect, praise, health and comfort is the root cause of all pain and misery. Desire for the perishable worldly things will surely lead to sorrow, and even Brahma, the creator of the world, will not be able to save you. Comfort or happiness is merely transient at the time of sensual pleasures, but before and after there is only sorrow and distress. The body deteriorates, then it goes to hell. We are born 84 lakh times. In this manner there is sorrow and only sorrow. It has been repeatedly emphasized that we can get happiness by rooting out our desire. However, we persist in thinking that we can get happiness by possessing worldly things. If this were so, we would never be distressed as long as we continued to possess that which we had desired. But it is not so. This implies that we are not distressed due to the lack of worldly things but because of our desire. Therefore, if we root out our desire, happiness shall be ours. So if we root out that desire forever, we shall live in bliss always. It is merely a misconception that we consider it bravery on our part by procuring things which are really non-existent. Real progress lies in attaining God who is ever-existent. Because of our voracity for perishable worldly things we are unable to attain Him. If we divert our attention from these unreal worldly things, and give them up, we may attain Him who is ever-living. Once we have achieved God realization there will be no separation from Him. In that state there is neither delusion nor pain to the least extent. In the Hira Lord says to Arjuna, acquiring that knowledge, you will no more be subjected to delusion. 435. God belongs to us and we have full claim on Him just as a child has claim on its mother. Just as a child can compel its mother to do what it wants, similarly we can have anything done by God because He has been our father and mother since time immemorial. The Lord further states, I am a servant of my devotees and they are the gems of my crown. Wealth and worldly things never accept us as theirs, but the Lord declares in the Hira, you are an eternal fragment of myself. 15/7. He was ours, is ours and will remain ours forever. We have never separated from Him, and shall never separate from Him. It is unfortunate that we persist in our desire to achieve what is perishable. This desire for the perishable can never be fulfilled because the perishable is incomplete, imperfect and transitory, while we are complete, perfect and permanent because we are part of God. In chasing after money we give up justice, truth, honesty, comfort and all else. However, when that wealth is slipping away from our possession, it does not ask for our permission. It has no pity on us considering that on its account we have given up our morality and truthfulness, and adopted dishonesty and committed sins, yet it does not condescend to at least take our permission to leave us. We should surrender ourselves to God. He has declared, "He who by renouncing his wife, name, son, family, life, money and the world surrenders to me once, how can, even think to renounce him?" Bijavada 9/465. All worldly things will surely perish one day. If we renounce worldly things which in any case will have to be renounced one day, God becomes pleased and grateful to us. Can there be any better bargain? No matter how much wealth we may earn, how much sensual pleasures we may enjoy, what a healthy body we may have, all will have to be left. There is no doubt about it. Then why do we make all our efforts in procuring them and feel mighty pleased with them? How stupid can we be? The imperishable Lord is attainable, but we have not attained Him yet because we are disinclined towards Him. As soon as we incline ourselves towards Him, our sins of millions of births will perish. Manasa 5/43/1. We must accept God as our own, and only get, not worldly things. This will be difficult only so long as our resolve is not firm. If we firmly determine to follow the spiritual discipline in spite of all unfavorable circumstances such as pain, insult, reproach, disease and even death, nothing can deviate us from the path of God realization. The desire for accumulation of worldly goods and sensual pleasures is the root cause for pain and suffering, hell and 84 lakh rebirths. This desire leads to all sorrows and sins. Yet we mistake in regarding our accumulations and sensual pleasures as an indication of our progress and success in the world. Little do we realize that they are the cause of our downfall. A wealthy man is not truly happy, but he who is devoted to the Lord is blessed with peace, comfort and happiness. To the extent we give up our attachment to worldly things and sensual pleasures, we will acquire peace in that measure. We have become slaves of hope, constantly living in the expectation of acquiring wealth, recognition and distinctive material goods. How long will our body, senses, pleasures, youth remain? Yet day and night we are living in the expectation of acquiring transient impermanent things and never even think of the Lord. God is always realizable, the world is never realizable forever. If the achievement of the realizable is difficult, is the realization of the unrealizable easy? God is never unrealizable. It is only we who are disinclined towards Him. He is not disinclined. On account of our disinclination for Him He appears distant to us, while worldly things around us are properly visible. In reality, the world has never come near to us, and God has never been far from us. By approaching the Lord, He feels pleased and happy, just as a child shouting "Mother" comes into her lap and the mother feels glad. She feeds and clothes him and does all for him. What did the child lose? In the same manner, when we approach the Lord like a child, He is pleased and happy. Peace through renunciation of desire. The desire for accumulation and worldly pleasures are the main obstacles in the path of God realization. The greatest disease is the greed for accumulation of wealth, even if this damages our life, paves the road to hell, necessitates $4 lakh rebirths and results in insult, concern and disrespect. We attach great importance to worldly things even though we know from our experience that they are transient and impermanent. We may become very learned and be able to write beautiful books, but we cannot experience true peace. We keep on desiring to accumulate more and more money, but not a single peso will accompany us, not even the body that we call mine. It was not ours before and will not remain ours later. But this truth we will never realize as long as we continue with our greed for accumulation of material goods and desire for sensual pleasures. In the second chapter of the Gurd, in the beginning and at the end, Lord Krishna lays emphasis on the renunciation of desires. A person stands steadfast on the path of God realization when a person abandons all the desires of the mind. 255. In the 71st couplet, again he mentions, he abandons all desires and is free from longing. 271. These two desires for sensual pleasures and accumulation of wealth are the main ones, and they give birth to a myriad of other desires. We should renounce them. We should not even have any desire to continue living if we are about to die, because this body is perishable and will surely pass away. Therefore, let us cease our attachment to it. Similarly, let us detach ourselves from sensual pleasures, wealth and worldly things, otherwise we shall have to suffer later on. We may become a ghost, a devil and whatnot. I have heard the story of an ascetic who lived in silent devotion to the Lord. He never touched money. One day his disciple and worker had to leave him and go to some other town on urgent work. He left telling the holy man that he was burying in the ground in front the amount of 20 rupees that he had with him. In case of need, he could have the money dug up for use. In his absence, the holy man fell ill, died and turned into a ghost. At night the sound of his wooden slippers could be heard. When his disciple returned, the holy man appeared and told him that before dying his mind had wandered towards the money buried in the ground. He exhorted his disciple to take it out and put it to good use. When the disciple had utilized the money in religious work, the holy man was freed from his ghostly existence. He heard of an incident in Vindavana. A beggar was able to collect almost a rupee. He happened to die. In his tattered clothes left behind, a small snake was seen. It was repeatedly seen and thrown away by passers-by, but repeatedly it reappeared. On closer examination, people saw the little money that lay among the rags. They put it to some good use whereafter the snake never reappeared. Lust that resides within us is a very fearful thing. Lust remains as long as our interest is centered in worldly pleasures. Where our pleasures and attractions lie, there should arise our love of God. No matter what good deeds we may perform on the surface, our inner attachment and attraction for worldly pleasures is dangerous. Therefore, the Lord has exhorted us to renounce all our desires. We should not beset ourselves with worries. How shall we live our life? Life will proceed in its course. With those deeds from which we have derived our body, these same deeds will carry us through. We should give up our inner desire for worldly pleasures and accumulation of wealth. External renunciation is also good and helpful. But it is the renunciation of attachment which is really important. While emphasizing the renunciation of 4 evils, the Lord declares in the Hira, he who gives up all desires and remains free from attachment, egoism and thirst for enjoyment, attains peace. 271. It is only then, as continued in the subsequent couplet, that we attain lasting peace and bliss immediately. Gira 272. Without renouncing them we cannot attain the Brahmi state of peace and bliss. We should, therefore, give up our egoism and attachment to worldly things. Through our desires our body cannot lust. It is by desiring to live that we are dying. There is no advantage in feeling desire, and there is no disadvantage that still remains. I have reflected on this matter very carefully. Question: what are we to do to renounce desire? Answer: if we wish to do something, we must chant the name of the Lord constantly. We should prayerfully say to the Lord we are unable to renounce our desire. In this manner, we should express ourselves constantly from our inner being with all earnestness. The Lord is bountiful, He will bless us. Let us employ this remedy. Solutions there are many, but the feeling of earnestness should exist. I am not the body. Our acceptance of ourself as the body gives rise to the birth-death cycle, pain and suffering, worry etc. That the body is not the self, is evident. The body we had in childhood is different from what we have now. It has changed so much that it is not recognizable. But, am the same. In this there is no scope for doubt. So let us consider that we are not the body. The physical body has identity with the physical world. This material body which has its identity with the material world consists of 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air and ether. Manasa 4/10/2. The world and the body have complete unity. When the world is referred to as this, then how can a tiny part of it have become T? In this way, there is identity between the subtle body and the subtle world. The 5 objects of sense perception, the 5 organs of action, life, mind and intellect are parts of the subtle world. The air has identity with life. Similarly, all the senses, mind and life have the same identity. All have the same composition. Similarly, the causal body has identity with the causal world. Beyond the subtle body nothing is known. That lack of knowledge is the causal body. Nature exists therein. Despite differences in nature, the composition is the same, thus nature is one. Therefore, the causal body remains the same in all cases. Hence, it is not correct to think in terms of this I am and this I am not, this is mine or this is not mine. It is wrong to consider ourselves as the body. If we rectify this mistake today, we shall derive great peace and bliss. We should realize that the body is different from us. Just as the thatched roof is quite different from us, we should realize that this body is different from us, and we shall be leaving it. This has to be realized. Learning and accepting it as such is not knowledge. Therefore, if we realize that this body is different from the self, we have attained knowledge, salvation and God realization. Actually, God is ever attainable, but we have accepted the unattainable world. As long as we do not accept the unattainable as unattainable, attainment of the attainable will not appear possible. Knowledge cannot be gained by learning, accepting or practicing. Am not the body. If we feel uneasy with this proposition, we shall have experience of it. Just as a sleeping man wakes up at once if he is pricked with a needle, in the same way we should feel distress on our wrong acceptance of ourselves as the body. We should inquire and reflect in our minds as to what we should do, how to proceed, how to cease this practice. It will then stop. Actually, our relationship of ness and mindness with this body is not real. We have accepted it wrongly. What perishes actually does not exist, and that which exists does not perish. The Lord has declared in the Gita, the unreal has no existence and the real never ceases to be. 2/16. All devotees of God should firmly accept that the body is not ours, and we are not the body. If we do not realize this, we will not have experience of God realization. This does not matter. But we should repeatedly and emphatically declare to ourselves, I am not the body and it is not mine, not mine. This too will not lead to realization. Then extreme uneasiness will be created which will suddenly lead to realization. I am not the body. Even if the mind does not cling to this idea, we may cling to it. Clinging or not clinging to the idea is not significant. This is not I as important. I am Brahma is not so beneficial as I am not this which is beneficial. We quickly realize the Lord. But first we must carefully ponder over and reflect that, I am the body or it is mine is impossible. By such resolute reflection, we shall feel distress at the lack of realization. But that distress has the power to separate ourselves from the body. The greater the distress, the sooner we will accomplish our mission. What am I? We should not ponder over this question. I have come to the conclusion that we can attain God more easily by this negative approach rather than by the positive one. Similarly, if we renounce our evils, our virtues will remain with us automatically. But if we cultivate virtues such as I will speak the truth, we will have pride. But if we declare I will not tell a lie, we will have no pride because we are going to renounce something which is bad. We cannot break up our relationship with matter, body, sense, mind, intellect etc., because we wish to remove it with the help of that same matter, viz., intellect, which is a part of it. We do not reflect over it, so we spend years and years in thinking and worrying, but we do not make improvement. We remain in the same condition as before, like a bullock which goes round and round an oil press throughout its life yet remains there at the same spot. Therefore, there is great need of reflecting over this point very seriously. Way to attain the supreme bliss: right use of available means. Just think. Happiness seems to dwell in wealth and other material things, and we expect joy out of them. But does full happiness lie there? Do we never experience grief from our association with them? Will they always be with us? Is sorrow never felt as long as they are with us? No, such cannot be the case. On the contrary, our attachment to worldly objects and regarding them as our own give rise to greediness. Greed is the gateway to hell. It consumes us like fire as long as we live. After death, it leads us into woeful forms of life like serpents and introduces us to hells of terrible suffering. Think again. You hope for happiness from your kith and kin and other beings, but are they all happy? Do they never feel miserable? Are they in harmony with everyone? Do they all live with you? Do they even wish to do so? Or, can they all abide with you? Are all your former comrades with you? Do changes never occur in their minds and bodies? Is there never a feeling of insufficiency in the mind of any of them? Are they always perfect in every manner? Do they never expect anything from anybody? Do they expect nothing at least from you? Just give it a thought. He who wishes from others something for himself, can he satisfy the wants of others? Can a seeker of pleasure impart it to others? Awake. Separation is taking place for everyone every moment, the span of life reduces every second. Death comes nearer every instant. Does a little thinking not make all this clear? If the reply is yes, then why not perceive the truth? When would you do so? What are you waiting for? Do you see any benefit in remaining immersed in delusion? If not, then who will show you the way? Why are you unconcerned, and depending on whom? How long will this go on? Have you ever thought of it? Otherwise, when would you think over it? Who is your true companion? This body, which you call your own, and, in so doing, sometimes also call it I. Will it remain free from disease as you like? Will it serve you as you will? Will it be with you always, and never die? Have you ever thought of it with discerning perception? When would you do so? Or, do you propose to remain unfamiliar with this subject? Is it wise? Will the result of this be borne by someone else? Arise. Your kith and kin and worldly possessions, that were with you before, are they all there now? And whatever and whosoever are with you today, will they always be so? Can they all remain together forever? Ponder over it. If you think about it calmly, you will realize that only the all-compassionate Paramatma will be with you forever. Therefore, you must take refuge only at his lotus feet. 1. Jivat has evident identification. 1. There can be no kinship with Paramatma, only it has with the world. Jiva thinks forgotten about it. By mistake that there is. 2. There is no separation from 2. There can be no lasting supreme self. Synthesis with samsara. 3. God can never forsake Ava. 3. The world can never abide by Jiva. 4. Bliss, and bliss alone, dwell. Sign 4. In samsara, there is no perfectum, not unhappiness. Ananda, devoid of pain or pay attention to it. Jiva is a part of Paramatma. Revered, Gita 15/7. Dear Adhisthatha, Manasa, Paramatma is supreme. Being a portion of him, Jiva is not content with its inferior status. It does not like to remain there. It has a constant longing for perfection, and exerts to reach the sublime height. The reason is that Jiva is a part of the Supreme Lord who is above all. Jiva therefore wishes to rise towards him. Whatever be its state, it wishes to rise upwards. For rising upwards, one must keep two things in mind: one is doing and the other is being. For example, we do business in which there can be either gain or loss. Therefore, we must be vigilant in doing and never indulge in anything which may bring about our downfall. And in being, let us be ever full of bliss. Whatever is happening is doing so as the outcome of our past karmas. This is as ordained by the merciful Lord. This belief will prove itself when our attention is steadfastly centered on our aim. Progress of him who acts thus is certain. He shall attain spiritual heights, that is the eternal law. Downfall has its own reason: we are careless in doing. If the result is favorable, we are glad. If it is otherwise, we feel sad. Be ever watchful in doing. Being watchful means that we refrain from doing what should not be done, and also worry not about what cannot be accomplished. In other words, we do not what the Sistrast prohibit and what is against social sanction. At the same time, we do not be anxious to achieve wealth, respect, glory, status, power, etc. It is not within our control to have them, howsoever we might covet them. By discarding the very idea of improper actions, and by not worrying for what cannot be achieved, we get strength, ability and enthusiasm to do what must necessarily be performed. The same advice is given by Lord Krishna to Arjuna in the Gurd in these words: W. Hudderfodiriya Hairs, 247, seek to perform your duty, but lay not claim to its fruits. Therefore, one must perform action without attachment to its fruits. Only that action is worthy of performance which has in it renunciation of self-interest on the part of the doer, and which is of benefit to others. What is done with selfish motives is only a deed and not what is fit to be done. This type of action is performed even by the lower forms of life like animals and birds. What is then the significance of human life? Hence, renouncing self-interest, man should strive to extend happiness to others, and more than happiness, we should concentrate on their ultimate good. Our Nidakaras have laid down, date for ER, what OSDOTFQ Gaforade, we're, one should have contentment as regards wife, food and wealth because these are inherited as fruits of actions performed in previous births. In the study of scriptures, in prayer and in charity, one should never be contented as these are new actions. He who feels satisfied in them will stray from the path of duty. Therefore, be ever engaged in good actions. We are advised to be content about wealth and earthly possessions. The idea is that we remain satisfied while acquiring them. There should be no discontent about what comes to our lot. But we should never be wanting in performing actions which we are enjoined to do. It is the law of nature that man readily engages himself in whatever he feels devoted to. And one who works with devotion does go ahead. Unemployment is at present rampant throughout the country. There may be several reasons for it. One prominent reason is that people avoid doing what right conduct demands of them. Unemployment does not affect the person who constantly does his bounden duty, whose needs are simple and who gives up taste, affectation and ostentatiousness, who employs his energy and resources in the service of others, who defends the rights of other people and does not encroach on them, and who does his allotted work diligently. We shall get whatever is in our destiny. The right understanding of this saying is that we do not worry, not that we become inactive. Therefore, do not neglect duty. He who thus acts with devotion progress both materially and spiritually. There is, however, a difference here to be noted. Those who strive hard for material advancement are rewarded with added ability to work, but it is not laid down that they must always be rewarded also with prosperity, prestige and respect. These depend on past actions, on destiny. Contrary to this, he who strives for spiritual advancement is always rewarded with success. That is, he develops love, understanding, peace, enthusiasm and absence of confusion and laziness, and his work goes on well because these are his own qualities. Why this difference? The answer is that the human body has been given to us for realization of Paramatma only. The aspirant of spiritual progress shall attain it provided he indulges in earnest and devout action. If one does not even make the attempt, how is he to attain that state? As against this, the gaining of material objects is dependent on fate. If destiny favors, one gets what he wants. But it is not certain that he shall get it by trying. In the spiritual field, what is important is keen desire and devotion, whereas in the material field everything depends on luck. Therefore, do not waste time in carelessness and laziness. Be constantly engaged in prayer, study and contemplation of the sacred texts, and thinking of the good of others. It is not realized by the thick-headed that if we think of the good of all are benefited. What is gross has a limited area of effect. The subtle is diffusive, and pervades everywhere. Thoughts are subtle. Hence, when the thought to do good to everybody comes into the mind, it creates similar atmosphere, and that spreads happiness all round. That is why the Lord says, Sarungator right welliated tat, here at 12/4, those who are intent on the welfare of all beings, verily, they also come unto me. He who is free from attraction and repulsion, and whose heart beats for the welfare of all beings, establishes rapport with the universe. Thus spoke Lord Krishna in the Gita, 5:29, he who knows me as the friend of all beings attains peace or moksha.